Hello everyone and welcome to the Sicilian Paramour. Today we're going to be discussing about the fried liver attack and how you can actually play a better version of it. So without further ado, let's get into it. After the moves e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop c4 and knight f6, we have the two knights defense. And now knight g5 is the most direct and attacking move, attacking the weak pawn on f7. Now unless black wants to play the Traxler counterattack, d5 is the most obvious move, and after e takes d5, he can enter the main lines with knight a4. However, some people might try knight d5. Now, this move can be played by two kinds of players. They are either beginners who think that this is the most natural and the most obvious move, or they are some club cats who have prepared this variation enough and think they can survive white's onslaught. Now when you observe beginners see this move, you can always see them salivating at this idea of sacrificing the knight on f7 and go in for the fried liver attack. After knight takes f7, king takes, queen f3, checks the king and attacks the knight. So the only way to preserve your piece is king e6, bringing the king into the center. Knight c3 just continues the onslaught, and after something like knight b to c4 and knight c to b4, and queen e4, c6, a3. Black can hold, of course, the computer might hold this, but for a human it's actually pretty difficult with d4 and castling and things like bishop out. All these things are looming in the air. This is not an easy position to play. However, white actually has a slightly better, or should I say slightly more devious option in the Lolli attack, which is d4. And the main move here would be to capture the pawn. However, let's just discuss about some alternatives. Now, I believe the most serious try for an advantage would be bishop to b4 check. However, we'll deal with this later. Let's see some of the lesser tries here. So after knight takes d4, well, this can be easily refuted after c3, and if the knight goes back, just queen takes and you have won a piece. And then if black thinks that he can get it back, he's sadly mistaken. Alright, so let's go back. Black can play here bishop e6, and you can castle here, but a simple straightforward solution would be knight takes, f takes, pawn takes, knight takes, queen check, threatening the knight, so the knight drops back and now just castle. The pawn on e6 is pretty weak, and these two knights actually kind of look a little funny to me. So this might be a good enough or advantageous position for white. Another sensible try might actually be bishop e7. This especially happens, and has occurred in many of my games as well, is when people really don't know what this move d4 is for, and they don't want to, get caught in any surprises, so they just try to bring the bishop out and castle. But this is not going to be easy. As a pointer, shall I say, whenever you see this move bishop e7 in the Lolli attack, it's actually a good time to sacrifice your knight. And after takes, you're gonna basically the same thing is gonna happen again, very similar to the fried liver attack. However, this pawn on d4 is making the difference here, because after king e6, knight c3, you're actually threatening a lot of these problems. And black has this one extra resource of knight takes d4, but after bishop takes, king d6 and queen d3, I don't think this is anything to deal with, anything problematic. However, black can somehow survive after c6, bishop e4, king e7, king c7 and castle. But white basically has a very straightforward development plan of maybe going bishop e3 or f4 in a later stage, and this king is still quite shaky, so I do not trust this variation much. Now, before going into the bishop b4 check, now let us just examine the most critical move, e takes d4. Now we castle. This is the main point. We still have the option of knight takes f7 available. At the same time, we have the access to this now newly open e-file, which our rook will use so dearly in very soon. So let's see. Now let's get the bad things out of the way. Just pushing the knight away doesn't help you much, because after takes, and queen f3, you're basically done already. I don't think the king can dare come to e6 because of this check. So maybe you can try this queen f6 but after check, takes check and check, and this is a bad position for black. Not really bad, but I don't think a human can usually survive this position for long. One of the games actually went king f7, queen d5 check, and oops. So yeah, things like this actually happen. Now another move we can throw in the garbage bin is bishop e6, after which we just spin the bishop. And now black has two tries here. Either he can play bishop e7 trying to castle kingside, or he can actually play queen d7 trying to castle queenside. So let's deal with both of them in turn. So after bishop e7, you basically take the bishop. Now this is one of those points where you have to remember that taking the knight over here, taking the pawn over here is not going to be good because of this bishop now lending extra support here. So what we can do is take the rook, and now the bishop is pinned, so you cannot take the knight. So the obvious move is take this, and now we're attacking the queen, we're attacking this pawn, and after say the queen moves, we can even take this bishop. Now for those who are sleeping, please wake up and realize that after queen takes, this is just a simple fork. And what else you're gonna do? We have two pieces for the rook, and the king is still just hounded in the center. Any other move, say a better move, would actually be knight b4 attacking the bishop. But after check and queen e5, there's problems everywhere. Takes, takes, takes. And now, okay, maybe this is one thing that black can try, but nah, nothing is working. Alright, now it's always good to be careful here. Now black is actually threatening knight e2 check and mating on the f1 square. Just to illustrate, if white plays a move like bishop here, just to play bishop b2 and get the rook into the game, this is actually just to mate. So you have to be careful at all times. So just take it, and even after this you're still having an extra piece. And after this entire sequence, we are black is having two weak pawns here. We are having an extra piece and also an extra pawn, and black dare not take this pawn because of things like this. So you see there are actually so many problems in this. So what else can be done? Against the other plan that I was mentioning, queen d7, we have another brilliant move. Knight takes f7. Now there are two ways to take this. Either you take with the queen, after which bishop takes, and that's it. We have regained the piece and we are still attacking the king. Or you can do king takes, and after the check we're still attacking that one. And yeah, basically if the king ever enters this file, you see the bishop actually gets pinned from the rook, so we can actually capture the knight for free. So the only sensible move would be g8, and after which we can actually take the bishop, because after takes we're having this sweet pin. However, if you want to be really sadistic about this, actually let's see, actually queen takes forces mate. It's actually better than bishop takes, because after a queen takes you have, say you play rook e8, that's mate. Or if you try to get an escape square, that's still gonna be mate. It'll just take us a little while though. So yeah, that's actually pretty sad. And if in this position the king ventures out to g6, bang bang bang, and after this the queen just has to give itself up and it's going to be mate in the next move. Of course I'm going through these variations quickly because this is a video and you can pause, but also because it's impossible to enumerate all the attacking lines that white has at its disposal here. So what's the most obvious move after that is bishop e7, and just like what I said, you see bishop e7 and in most of the positions you take it. After takes and check, again the king should not venture out, so because of this rook e1 check. So if he goes back, we take the bishop. If rook f8, we give this check. Actually, there's another variation here where you can actually take this, check, and you can actually go queen d5. And there's actually been a game such as c5, rook e1, queen c8, just piling on that unfortunately pinned bishop here, and after something like this we just force mate. So that's a sweet game, although in this exact position the computer will suggest queen c4 as being more accurate, but who cares about accuracy when you're playing such romantic openings? Okay, maybe you do, but whatever. What I recommend is you play this queen check, which is attacking the pawn here, and after, say, g6, you first take the and then take this, and this is a pretty sad position for black. The king is in the center, the pawns are all shattered, we're still threatening the g6 pawn, so it's only going to be good. And if he doesn't play g6, he plays king d7, then we focus our attention back on the king. Now something is very dangerous is lurking in the position. If you can spot it, let's play a careless move for black, a6, and just get mate. Yep. So something to save that might be rook f6, but even bishop g5 takes, and we're just gonna get that piece back after this, and we can just basically take the bishop. So many, all of these lines are actually coming out of the fact that the black king is just sitting in the center and is never being allowed to castle. This is the only way we are actually hounding the king, and all these attacking possibilities are generated. Alright, so now we have dealt with bishop e7. Now I hope you know how to deal with these guys. So let's go back to the move I told you about. So after d4, the most serious try would actually be bishop b4. Now the reason for that would be after c6, now our knight cannot, c3 sorry, our knight cannot use this square to pressurize this knight further. However, there's another thing, in many lines the resource knight c to b4 is also not possible because of this very pawn. So it's an even trade, I believe. And after, okay, let's see, there's a bad move called bishop a5, after which we just take, and we are threatening this piece. And even if you protect, we castle, and queen c2. Now we're threatening mate right here, g6 and queen e4. And we're gonna bring the rook to the d file and still keep pressurizing this one, and this is a very pleasant pressure. And if you count, we are actually not down material at all. In fact, we are up a pawn. So obvious move again would be just going back. This is, I believe, the main line, and after the obvious, he take, check, he comes front. And I told you, like in many lines before, the king was not coming front and going back. It was because this file was actually open. But if this file is not, the king can actually venture out here, just because of the support it has of this pawn. And after queen e4, we're just basically gonna castle and play f4 to pressurize, or shall I say terrorize, black. And now there are many things you can play here. A blunder move would actually be a normal move like this. After castle, a6 and f4, this is, we're pressurizing again and again. Well, I shouldn't call rook f8 a blunder, but it's not the most precise. Another thing would be knight a5, just trying to kick the bishop out so that if it goes back it gets traded, or just to alleviate the pressure. Not this variation, of course, but the knight was actually doing a pretty good job of protecting this, so now we can basically just play queen e5 and take the knight on the next move. So this is not good. I believe the theory here recommends b5, and after takes, bishop b7, so that now the knight can move and this pawn will be protected. Also the bishop is deflected. But after castle, we are still having a lot of threats. We can take, d takes e5, and still f4 is in the air. So this is a good enough pressure. So this was the Lolli attack, and it's actually much better than the fried liver attack because of all the possibilities that black can actually go wrong in, shall I say. Alright, there's another thing I should mention here is that this knight g5 is not the only move through which you can enter this. Another cunning move order would actually be the standard d4, and after e takes, knight g5. Now this is actually slightly problematic for black, because after takes And many times it happens that during these transpo tricks or transpositions, black does not understand that he's actually entering a very dangerous line. The main moves here would be knight a4 or queen e7. I would recommend queen e7, but he might actually be tempted to take this, and after castle we are back into the Lolli attack. Now this is my preferred way of going into the Lolli attack, because I myself do not actually play the knight g5 lines. Instead I go for d4, and this is something that after you play d4 and this sequence, it's much more natural for people to take this pawn with the knight, because it's just a slight transposition trick. And many people after say the direct knight g5 and takes people don't take this in this form just because of the transposition. Alright, so that was all about the attack by Giambattista Lolli. That's his name, by the way. And that pretty much sums up the attack. So if you like this, please give it a thumbs up and share with your friends, or don't share with your friends if you want to use it on them. In either case, I hope you have a good weekend, and bye bye.